One introduction first. We mentioned a few times that fasting is not part of the essence of Teshuvah. Fasting, we mentioned, has connections, and we spoke about, and we'll talk at the end of the chapter for different reasons we brought up. But fasting is not part of Teshuvah. Fasting is something else. Either we mentioned it is to avert upcoming trouble, to avert an upcoming decree, to avert an upcoming or something pending that seems unpleasant, or we said to assist us in our journey of Teshuvah, or we said just now that it's like a sacrifice, like a gift, etc. But the truth is, it's not just that fasting isn't part of Teshuvah. There's a phenomenal perspective of Hasidus, which I believe this quote is from the Mittler Rebbe, the second Rebbe of Chabad, if I'm not mistaken, that he was once talking about the Teshuvah by Yafabringen and talking to the Chassidim. And he noticed that the crowd was in tears and people were people were remorseful and sad. And he stopped and goes, 1 second. Teshuvah is a mitzvah. A mitzvah you got to do with joy. What does this mean, doing Teshuvah with joy? So it depends how we see the Teshuvah. Imagine, I don't have to imagine this, but I can hope this. Imagine a person spends an entire summer or trip to Israel somewhere eating and puts on 10 or 12 pounds. And then they say to you, you know what? If you sincerely regret it and decide you're going to change your ways, those 12 pounds come off in a second. I like this. This is what I like. It's no exercise, no dieting, just really regret and decide from now on it's going to be a different me. And 12 pounds are off. That is Teshuvah. A damage of sin creates a damage. It creates a break. It creates a disconnect. It decapitates us to a certain extent of our spirit. That's what Karis is. Karis is, it cuts us off. Says Hashem, you do Teshuvah, you're back on. It's all good. We reconnect it. You remember you were cutting your grass and you cut the extension cord? It's fixed. As long as you feel bad about it and decide never do it again, the extension cord is fixed. It's all connected again. This should be the greatest joy, the unimaginable, miraculous gift that Hashem gave us. In other words, Teshuvah is not a sad experience. It's like you got lost. You went off the path. And you figured out the path back. Oh, I'm so sad. I'm going back now. No, I'm happy. I was lost. I was all famished. I remember taking a hike with my kids in the woods upstate New York a few years ago. And I was having fun following these trails. Next thing I know is I really don't know where I am. I really don't know. And I'm trying to find back that main trail. And when I found it, I just, okay, about the half an hour walking back. It was like such a good feeling. When you find your way back, you should be happy, uplifted, overjoyed. The idea that Teshuvah should be done with sadness is a non-truth. Teshuvah, there are points where we should feel bitter about the sins we did, but that's a step towards Teshuvah. The journey of Teshuvah itself is joy. It's happy. I'm losing weight. I'm getting back with my family. I'm reconnecting. I'm getting back on the right path. So just as a reminder, Teshuvah in the perspective of what Teshuvah really is, the decision to get back on and not get lost again, not to deviate from the path, this is a joyous mitzvah. So while Teshuvah does have aspects and points when there's regret, a person, for an example, had a major argument with a sibling or with a friend and said things that are very hurtful. It hurts. So while it happens, or after it happens, you could feel a remorse and a bitterness. Why did I say that? But to walk around depressed after you made the decision to get back together and your friendship is reignited, and the whole time while you're getting back to that place again, because it doesn't take a second. When hurt happens, you have to heal. That whole journey shouldn't be, I'm so sad to get back with her again. I'm excited. I'm happy. Our friendship's rekindled. The mitzvah of Teshuvah is a mitzvah of joy. There's one point I wanted to make here, that the whole journey of Teshuvah is a journey of joy and uplifted happiness. And if we don't feel it, that means we're doing something wrong. That means we're not doing Teshuvah. We're doing depression. We're doing anxiety. We're doing sadness. We're doing brokenness. That's not what Teshuvah is. Teshuvah is exactly as the word sounds. Tashuv, return to where you were. Get back together, returning. Okay, that's just a point. Now we're going to finish off the chapter with 3 examples of 3 great rabbis. Because remember, the last point we made in this chapter is that the idea of Teshuvah is, and that we're introducing here, the idea of fasting that we're introducing here is fasting as a gift. What does that mean? We mentioned that when a person does have a break or a disconnect or a fight or a hurt with somebody, you could be forgiven for that mistake. And you're completely forgiven. You're back at Tzaddik. But it doesn't mean the good feelings also came back. Like I gave an example, if you hurt someone in the airport either on purpose or a mistake. You were all frustrated with your flight and you yell at some stranger. And then after you get your flight organized, you go, why did I yell at that person? That was so not nice of me. You go over and apologize and you make it up and you explain to them and you really apologize. That's good. And you can go on because you fixed it. But you never had a relationship with them in the first place. But if it's your brother, if it's your parent, if it's a close friend, if it's a spouse who you hurt, then even though the person forgives you, how do you get back to close feelings again? I know there's no more bad feelings, but we used to have such a close connection. We used to have fun, but that's not there. This is what the fasting does. Fasting is a gift. And we explained last week how it is and what it is as a gift. We're going to continue that a bit more today. But now we're going to bring in 3 examples of where you find where there was no need to do any real tshuva because nothing wrong really happened. It was a subtlety of subtleties. Nevertheless, we see that fasting took place in a tremendous way. And that was to create good graces as a gift, as a extra thing, not part of tshuva. So we're going to bring 3 cases where there really was no need to apologize. Technically, there was no need to do teshuva. These were small, I don't want to say insignificant, because nothing in Judaism is insignificant, or in life for that matter. Nevertheless, in these 3 cases, we find the great sage that we're referring to fasted incredible amounts because to them, fasting wasn't teshuva. It was a gift to God that they felt was necessary. And we find many times that people bring a gift to somebody. Sometimes you bring a gift because it's their birthday. Sometimes you bring a gift because you're a guest in their home. And sometimes you bring a gift because you forgot their birthday. I forgot to tell you something. You know what? I want to bring you just a little something. I forgot to come by, or you invited me and I didn't come. I want to bring you over a challah. I want to bring you over a flowers or a frame. Why? Because I felt like I missed an opportunity and I want to just like bring some good feelings in. So a gift could be not as an apology, but as sort of, you know what? I want to get some good feelings going again, as we'll see. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nihiyeh b'bayit. Delicious mint tea. Hold on.
Delicious coffee.
Another class would be better. Okay. Here we are. We're 3 lines from the bottom, page 182. And we're going to finish the chapter, God willing, today. And therefore, we find by many great sages of the Mishnah. Tanoim are authors of the Mishnah. Amoraim are authors of the Talmud. Shall dover kal on something very light and seemingly insignificant. Hayu misanim, tiny as harbe. They fasted a tremendous amount of fasts. I'm going to see what means a lot of fasts. First, we quote Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, we have him from the Haggadah. We know who he is. When he was 18 years old or 17 years old, he was 17 years old. He prayed to have a white beard. He was appointed. There was a whole fiasco going on with the rabbis, and they appointed him to be the head chief rabbi. He was a brilliant scholar at a young age, and he became the chief rabbi, the head guy. And he, we started talking about this last week. There's an argument amongst the rabbis. We know there's a halacha that your pets, your animals must also keep Shabbos. Only for themselves they could do things. Your pets can't work on Shabbos. You can't have your pet turn on a light for you. You can't have your pet carry for you on Shabbos to shul. You say, you know what? There's no Erev. I want my pet to carry for me to shul. I'll strap it to his back. Your pets can't work. Your cows can't plow the field on Shabbos. But there's a machlekes, an argument on the rope or a little a leash or whatever. It's not really a leash. It's a rope that goes between the horns. Is that considered a tool, like you hold it, the cow, that's sometimes to lead it? Or is that considered a decoration, an ornament? We know when it comes to people, ornaments are not called carrying. If you decide to wear a necklace, or 2 necklaces, or 4 necklaces, or 5 bracelets, it's not called carrying. But you already have some. I like 10 of them. I like bracelets. I like because it's not called carrying. Why? Because they're decorations. Anything that's an ornament is not called carrying. According to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, a cow which has a strap on it falls in the category of like jewelry, or not really jewelry, but it's called a tachshit. It's something you wear. It's like a thing you wear. Other rabbis said, no, it's a tool. It's a thing to hold on to the cow with. He said it's fine. Because this was the pre-halachic times, in those days, people followed their opinion. Before a ruling was made by the courts, or before a ruling was made finally, that were following this opinion, people were allowed to follow their opinion. If you were a rabbi, his community followed this way, his community followed that way. Eventually, they all went along with the rabbi's, the majority opinion, etc. So at that time, there was nothing wrong for him to keep it, and in his mind, it was perfectly acceptable. He had a neighbor who had a cow, and his cow walked out with a strap. He sees it, and he figured his neighbor's probably doing it because, my opinion, and he didn't say anything. Later, he fasted fasts after fast after fast after fast because he didn't say anything. And the Alter Rebbe explains a novel, what he didn't say anything to stop the guy on Shabbos from walking out with the cow with the strap on its horns. Now, the Alter Rebbe says he didn't feel bad that the guy transgressed, because he didn't. In his opinion, the guy didn't transgress. Usually, if someone does something, you see a person if a person is not religious, not orthodox, and telling them something is not going to listen to it, better don't say. You see a guy driving on Shabbos, or you see a guy, eating a non-kosher sandwich, you don't say, "Hey, that's not kosher." What are you helping the guy? You're just making him feel worse now. You're making the situation more complicated. But if you know a guy cares, a guy doesn't know. A guy went into the kosher section of the store, and there's something in the wrong section there, and you see a guy, it's like, doesn't belong there. That's not kosher. And you go, no, it's none of my business. No, it's your business. Go say something. So you have to say something in general. But in this case, he didn't feel us to say anything because it was okay. In his opinion, the cow carrying the strap was fine. So why did he fast? He fasted that he should have supported the other rabbis' opinions. He should have given them some credence. So he felt bad. You have these rabbis who are very wise, and there are quite a number of them. I should have told the guy, the rabbis say that, meaning not out of concerning this person's observance, out of giving extra respect to his colleagues. He didn't say anything. He didn't do anything. He had a non-verbal a thought that he could have said something he didn't to help support the words of his rabbis. He said, this is the level of this holiness. That was the worst thing he did in his life. That one time he could have supported his rabbis more, and for this he fasted many fasts till his teeth turned black. Let's see this inside.
Rabbi,
yes.
What about if he didn't have a chance to talk to the other rabbis? Still, he felt that he needed to fast?
Yeah, because here it wasn't a matter of right or wrong. It was a matter of, here you have the rabbis who say something, here you have a guy. Let me tell him, by the way, there are some opinions that say, my colleagues say you shouldn't do this. He's giving some credibility, meaning this gives this person who would probably be interested to know this a chance to hear, another opinion. This was not a guy making trouble or a guy who was just ignorant. Mm-hmm. This was the times when the Mishnah was being evolved. This is the Talmud was being created. Information was coming out every day, new stuff, discoveries in Jewish law. So.
But wouldn't you confuse somebody? I mean, you're giving them this opinion, you're leaving it to the person to decide for themselves then?
Or to tell him, by the way, there's a stricter opinion. It wasn't really telling him, you could have told him, I know I'm more lenient than this, but there's a stricter opinion. When we built our shul, so we wanted to put in the Shabbos elevator. So I called up a particular rabbi who's a very, very respected, great rabbi, who a lot of rabbis call up for rabbi advice. And I asked him, I started talking about the Shabbos elevator. I want to know if we could put one in. He says, don't ask me. I'm very strict on the subject. Don't ask me. He's telling me in advance. He lives in a community, a very religious community, and he stands with a very strong opinion on the subject because it's a lot of halachic challenges with if it's a pulleys or if it's hydraulics and this stuff. He says, don't ask me. So, and he explained to me why he's so strict. It was very fascinating reason. We could talk about another time. But the bottom line is, he could say, you know what, I'm more lenient in this subject. The rabbis that are strict, I want to let you know, these rabbis, just to give some deference to the other rabbis. So again, we're talking about such a subtlety that we're actually arguing here if he should say something or not. We're discussing here if he even should have said something. So you see how small of an issue it is. So the Alter Rebbe is pointing out, you see how this was not a sin he did. It was an extra thing to go on fast. That's one story. And it says his cow, even though it wasn't his cow. Why do they call it his cow, says the Gemara? Because he was in a situation where he could have done something about it. He could have done something, but he didn't. So they call it his cow. And the then says of the neighbor. So it's his cow of the neighbor, meaning it was the neighbor's cow. And he didn't say anything. What was the problem? I should have listened to my friends. You know what? I could have told the guy, I have friends, good rabbis, they say you shouldn't do this. That's it. I could have, meaning, why did I not agree with my friends? It was just about him and giving some more respect. If he was stricter, is one thing. He was more lenient. He could have said, you know what, I'll be more strict like my friends. Okay, that's the case. Then you have another case. Rabbi Yeshua was one of the great sages of all time. Sha'amar, he was one of the students, and he was known as from the house of Hillel. There was, in those days, there was Shammai and Hillel, two great, this is about, we're talking about 50, 60, 70, 80 years before the destruction of the second temple. Mm-hmm. So he was, you had then Hillel and you had Shammai, two great rabbis. Hillel was generally lenient. Shammai was generally stricter in most cases. And they had schools. Each school was huge schools of hundreds of students, maybe thousands of students. I don't know how many, hundreds and hundreds of students. These students were great scholars. Happens to be Shammai school is much smaller because they were such radicals and fanatics. Let me just close this here. They were such radicals and fanatics that Herod was the king at that time. Herod was a nut job, and he did the greatest and worst things at the same time. And they did things against his. He put up like a giant eagle in front of the temple. They tore it down, so he killed many of the students of Shammai. So the house of Shammai is much smaller than the house of Hillel, but just because many of them were not shot, but they were executed by the government for their stand against the government. So that's why, by the way, we find many times we rule like Hillel because we follow the majority. And there was more students of Hillel than Shammai. It's one of the reasons why we follow. Also, Hillel is more lenient.
But when Mashiach comes, we will follow Shammai.
Yeah, we're going to go with the stricter, more unfiltered perspective. So cask strength. So the bottom line is, he was a student of the house of Hillel. And there was once a big argument between the two houses of Hillel and Shammai. And he turns to his colleagues and he says, and he was talking about, and this school lasted for a long time. It wasn't like it was just, a 10-year school. 100, 200 years. It was a school that stood for a long time. And there were students of the school, of the Shammai, who lived maybe 30, 40, 50 years earlier. And he said, I don't understand your opinion. It's foolishness what you're saying, that their opinion. You guys are smart. His words were, I'm ashamed of what your opinion is. It was arguing on laws of Tumah and Tara, purity and impurities. Because what was he meant? He didn't mean it as an insult. He meant, you guys are brilliant scholars. You guys are brilliant. You're geniuses. And that's your opinion. And then later, when they explained to him more why they said it, he said, you know what? I should have been nicer to them, even though they're my colleagues. He went to the graves of these people and apologized. And then he fasted for numerous fasts till his teeth turned black. So you're talking about a great scholar from the house of Hillel, that all they did was argue, and they used to use sharp language with each other all the time. You look at the words of the Gemara, when they argue, it's beautiful because they're arguing, I don't know if it's beautiful, it's flowery. It's flowery, it's like such creative expressions they use when they want to say that the other opinion's wrong. And here, he says an opinion, and he was right that the opinion at that point, what he understood for them was shocking that such brilliant scholars should say this. And he says, I'm ashamed that you guys. And then he apologizes, saying he's ashamed when he only meant it in the common way. It's like you say to a 15-year-old kid who's eating with his fingers, I'm shocked at you. I'm surprised. I'm ashamed you're eating with your fingers. What do you mean? You're 15, you're not 12. And sorry, you're not 2. If you're 2, you're not 12. You're not 2. A 2-year-old eats with his fingers, it's fine. So he didn't mean it even in an insult. He meant like, I'm surprised. You guys are smarter than that. Nevertheless, he fasted for many, many fasts until his teeth turned black. Okay. Then we have a third story. Here his teeth don't turn black, don't worry. The third story is Rav Huna. Rav Huna was a great, great sage. And he was once, my son from Israel calling. He was once davening, and the strap of his tefillin turned over, accidentally, inadvertently, it turned over. Instead of being the black side up, it was the white side up. And we know there has to be one side black, and it shouldn't turn over, it has to be flat. It's an insignificant thing. Insignificant, it's a small, it's not a sin. It happens in davening sometimes. Your straps touch, they turn, the straps turned over. It says you fasted 40 fasts. It doesn't say he fasted, it says he fasted 40 fasts for the strap turning over one time. Okay, let's take a moment and stop here for a second. A couple questions. First of all, why 3 stories? I mean, you could bring 10, I'm sure there's more stories you could bring. There's less. Why do you have to bring 3 stories? That's first of all. Second of all, why did they fast unlimited fasts? It doesn't say amount. He fasted 40 fasts. So first of all, let's take the 3 stories. It's fascinating. The Alter Rebbe chooses. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was a Kohen. Rabbi Yeshua was a Levi. And Rav Huna was the Yisrael. So he picks a Kohen, Levi, and Israel to show it doesn't matter who you are amongst the Jewish people. Everybody's equal. And more than that, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, his transgression was in thought. Rav Yeshua, his transgression was in speech. And Rabbi Huna, transgression was in action. One thought something, or he didn't say something. He just was like, the mind, I'm not going to say anything. One spoke and said, I'm ashamed of your opinion, what you guys are saying. And the third one is actually an action, is a thing flipped over. Why are thought, speech, and action so important? Not just because each one is a different faculty of the 3 interfaces our soul has with the world. We have 3 interfaces. We have only 3 ways you can interact with the world: thought, speech, or action. There's nothing else. There's no fourth way. So not just because he wants to bring all 3, but because each 3 has a reason to say this one is worse. This one is a reason to fast. The other one's not. Maybe in thought I should fast. In speech I should fast. In action I should fast. Action why you should fast makes sense because I actually did something. It wasn't just it's action counts. Speech is the most articulate of all of the 3 faculties. What does that mean? Thought, speech, and action. When you want to say something, it takes many more words than if you think something or do something. For example, If I take a sip of this cup here, I took a sip. Someone else could say it was a styrofoam cup, it was tea in it, it was a tea bag hanging from the side. I let my left hand to describe it might take a minute or two. And if you want to get really technical, you can describe, but it doesn't change the reality what I did. It takes much more words. Thinking something, same thing. If I want to think something, it'll take me 5 minutes to know what I was thinking. It took me a second. I was thinking about something. Now, what were you thinking? Okay, there's a story told of the Alter Rebbe. There's a tradition. I hope I'm not misquoting the story because I read it about 10 years ago. There's a tradition that comes from Yehuda HaChassid not to polish your shoes on the day you're planning to travel. It's a Kabbalistic thing, not to polish your shoes on the day you're planning to travel. It doesn't mean if you polish your shoes, you shouldn't travel because you weren't planning to. Let's say you polish your shoes and now you want to travel, that's fine. Let's say someone else polish your shoes. You shouldn't polish your shoes the day you're planning to travel. Very interesting law. It says the Alter Rebbe, I think it was the Alter Rebbe, had a dream where the reason was explained to him. And I think his son or his grandson, I think it was his son, he told him, to explain to you would take me 60 years. And I think that's the correct thing. I don't think it's at 60 hours. And even if it was 60 hours, I think it's at 60 years. What that means, it's an unbelievable concept. That there can be something that takes, I have nothing that would take me more than 2 minutes to explain. I don't have any deep thoughts. But anything, if I can't say it in 2 minutes, I don't know about it. Here, 60, let's say 60 minutes, 60 hours, 60 days, 60 years, whatever the expression was, I can't remember exactly. It's unbelievable, the concept. So speech is much more than, that's much more. What's the reason why you think thought is the strictest of all? Thought, while it is not really, never happened. The guy thought, I thought about stealing. I thought about somebody not nice. What's wrong with that? Thought is the most closely connected to the soul. These three things are interfaces of the soul. The soul does, the soul thinks, and the soul speaks. That's how we express our thought, our feelings, our intellect, our emotions. When you have thought is so deeply bonded with the soul. As a matter of fact, you're never not thinking. It's so closely, you're always thinking. You're either thinking about important things, foolish things, silly things, nice things, great things. You're always thinking. And the thought is very closely connected to the soul. So when you think, it affects the soul more than anything else. So even a person might say, I was just imagining, fantasizing, what was wrong? You actually corrupted your soul more than doing it, because the world, you do more damage when you do something. If I actually went and stole, it was more damage to the world. I changed something, I hurt somebody. But in thought, it's more damaging to my soul. Okay, so that's why it brings one of each three. Why is the fourth one, which is action, only 40 days of fasting, not unlimited fasting? It says 40 is a very significant number we find whenever we're making a change or something new is happening. Every time something new or a change, we find the word 40. A mikvah is 40 sa. Mm-hmm. The flood lasted 40 days and 40 nights. Moshe, to get the Torah, went up to heaven 40 days. A child being born, it's the first 40 days where the child is actually formed, and it has all the halachas of a pregnancy. The pregnancy is not considered started as a thing. As a matter of fact, it says you're allowed to pray to change after 40 days, you shouldn't pray anymore to be a boy or girl.
Let's read it.
That was there are exceptions. And by the way, we saw in Dina certain characteristics that were more masculine. But it says you shouldn't pray after 40 days because it's already there. It's like praying to make a change. Now, God sometimes doesn't make a change. But before 40 days, it hasn't yet been determined. It can go either way. How that works biologically, I have no idea. But the concept is that before 40 days, it's just considered nothing, just a potential life, so to speak.
40 years in the desert.
40 years in the desert coming to Israel. As a matter of fact, Rav Huna himself was one of the Rambam quotes 40 generations that went to bring the Torah from Moshe to the final conclusion. Wow. Till the Mishnah was written, till the Talmud was written by Rav. And as a matter of fact, he's one of the 40s. So we have really two tracks of Torah. We have the written Torah that was given over in 40 days, and the oral Torah, which is what we handed down. That was the written Torah wasn't handed down. That was just there. The oral Torah was handed down 40 generations of rabbis, and the Rambam lists each of them. Was Moshe to Yeshua to the elders to to each person, each generation, 40. And it's really cool to see them till it goes to they write it down as a Talmud. They put it down to the final Talmud we have today. He was number 37 actually. He was the 37th in the process. But the bottom line is, I just know that because I saw that. I didn't count that and make the calculation. But the bottom line is, 40 is a number that shows an actual change, an actual beginning, a new start. Pregnancy is a new beginning, a new start. The Torah, a new life, a mikvah, whether it's a convert or a woman or a person coming pure. It's a new beginning, a new stage. So 40 represents a new start, a new beginning. And that's why you want to make a change in life, 40 fasts are enough. And because we're talking here not about speech or thought, which are almost like an unlimited thing. When you do an action is there was a certain amount that was done. Words and speech in general go much further than what the action was done. It's deeper. The words go farther. Words have a certain way they affect. So in general, we say thought and speech are much more. The damage and the effect and the distance it goes is even more than actions. Obviously, it depends on the words, it depends on the action. But so here we just fasted 40 fasts. Okay.
Rabbi, and also when you're 40, you're able to understand and approach the mystical.
Yeah. Age of 40 is when a person says, Aboim Shana, a person of 40 years can come to properly understand teachings and deep ideas. There's an argument that it means 40 years old or 40 years of learning, but it's 40 years that sets that number. Okay. That's these three authorities. But what do you see from all these three cases? That these were such subtle sins or misconduct that didn't need tshuva, but they did fast anyway. This shows that the fast were not part of tshuva. It was something extra, above and beyond. It was the cream on it was the cherry on top. Okay. Now from here to the end of the chapter, the Al Yisrael, there about 7 or 8 lines down, third word. The Alter Rebbe is going to go now and explain a deeper Kabbalistic insight into fasting. We're going to take it one more step further, and he's going to explain Val Yisoid Zeh. And on this foundation, the foundation that's something, as we'll see, it's the foundation of what it says in Talmud, of what a fasting really is. Limed ha'arizal talmidov al pi chachmas ha'emes. The Arizal, the great sage, lived in the 1500s, the 16th century. He taught his students tremendous insights and secrets of fasting, and he told them fasting is such a big deal that lekama. I'm sorry, I was having a little trouble seeing these words here. Now, he said, based on this secret, there's a secret understanding to, and we'll get to it in a minute. What's this new secret understanding of fast day? Some secret we'll talk about of what a fast is. He told his students, and his students were not regular students, these were all great Kabbalists, all great scholars. He said, I'm going to tell you now how many fasts to fast for each particular behavior that you do that needs a fast day. And he gives examples. Kumei alakas, if someone gets angry, getting angry is not good. Kuf nun alaf tiny sechulu, fast 151 fasts. 151 fasts. How did they come up with 151? Because the word kas, anger, equals 150. Plus you add the word itself. The word kas, add that one too. It's called apelo, is 151. 151 fasts for getting angry. I'm going to be a hungry man. We're going to be hungry people. Now, why we explained earlier in Tanya, I remember many decades ago, why getting angry is a problem. There's a lot of reasons for it. It's losing control. It's letting your animals will get better of you. But also, getting angry is a sign that you don't have full faith in God. Because if you trust that Hashem's doing it, you wouldn't be angry. You'd say, oh, Hashem has a reason. My pants ripped, or I spilled bleach on my coat, or someone cut me off in line, or I missed my bus. I'm not getting angry. This is what Hashem wanted. Being angry shows whatever it might be, because you're taking away the fact that Hashem runs the world. Hashem governs the world, not you. And not that person who insulted you, not the person who bothered you, who pushed you. At the end of the day, no one else could do anything to you without Hashem wanting it to happen. So if you get angry ever at anybody, you're thinking, oh, Hashem didn't want that to happen, but it happened anyway. The fact that it happened means Hashem wanted it. So kas is not a good thing. 151 fast days. Then he says, V'alfilu. Maybe before we go further, let me just point something out here. It seems to be that why is the Alter Rebbe telling us this? This is supposed to be related to, we start off the whole book that this is related to every single person, every single, what are we saying here? An example from the students of the Arizal. We can't compare to them. The students of the Arizal, they were the composers of the Shabbos davening, or they were the composers of, all the prayers we say. We're going to say, oh, we should be like the Arizal. What are we telling us that it's the Arizal students that were taught this? The answer is, there's a question like this. Why don't we find anywhere else from the Talmud, from anywhere else, any discussion about fasting, all these fasts? Why don't we find it in the Gemara? If it's such a thing, Why do we find in the Gemara, the Talmud? If you did fast 151 fasts. If you did this, as we'll see all the different numbers of fast days, why do we have it wait until 1,000 years, 1,500 years after the Mishnah, and then we tell us, oh, by the way, if someone fasts this many, someone did this sin or did this behavior, fast this many fasts. Why are you telling us now? Where was it all these years? What's the origin of this? He's telling us the truth is this was always there. The origin of this is the Talmud. This is not Kabbalistic pure. This is actually Talmudic insight. It's Talmudic insight that was based on the teachings of Kabbalah. And we know until the Arizal, there was a rule that was given out by God in heaven. Asur legale zoisa chachma. It's forbidden to share the wisdom of Kabbalah. This is not Kabbalah that was made up at this time of the Arizal. This is what the Gemara meant when it said about fasting, and all what the Gemara talks about is talking about even these fasts. But it was a secret what it meant for all the years until the Arizal. By the Arizal said, mitzvah legale, now it's the time, it's a mitzvah to teach it, but he taught it only to his Talmidim, only to his select group. When the Alter Rebbe came along, after the Baal Shem Tov came, and Mashiach told him, it's time to spread and teach all these teachings everywhere. At that point, the Alter Rebbe said, now everyone should know this. So it wasn't something that the point of saying the students of the Arizal and saying that it's Kabbalah was not to tell you that it's above your heads. It's explaining why wasn't it shared until now. Why wasn't it shared the last 1,500 years? And the answer is because it wasn't allowed to be shared to get closer to Mashiach. But now that it's closer, that's what he says, Al Yisoid Zeh. He's not saying something new. On the foundation of what was said here, that's what the Arizal taught his students, and that's what the Alter Rebbe is telling us now and sharing with us in the Tanya for every single person to know all of us could do this, and on some level. We'll see later in the chapters that today we don't do this with actual fasting, we give charity instead. Or stronger people could fast in pieces, as we'll see. Well, we'll get to that much later. Okay, so 151 fasts for getting angry. V'afilu al ister d'Rabbanan, even on a rabbinic thing, which is not even biblical. For an example, drinking wine that was produced by a non-Jew or held by a non-Jew, handled by a non-Jew. Wine that's not mavushal, that a non-Jew handled, you're not allowed to drink it. That's a rabbinic decree. Nevertheless, if someone does that, you should fast 73 fasts. But drinking wine that's not, but this refers really to all wine that's not kosher. When you buy non-kosher wine, what does it mean non-kosher? It's kosher. It came from a grape. What they put in some pork? What does it mean non-kosher? It means it's not. It's yayin nesach or yayin akum. What does that mean? That there's no rabbinic supervision properly making sure all different criteria till it came into the bottle, until it was boiled, until it was pasteurized. So because of that, we call it yayin akum, and that's what the difference between kosher wine and not kosher wine is. Only if a non-Jew handled it in the process before it got to the bottle. The different, technicalities. That's what difference is kosher, not kosher. But if someone drank that wine, he fasts 73 fasts. Why 73? The word yayin equals 70. And there's 3 letters, yud, yud, nun. So Kabbalistically, it becomes 73. Yayin is 70. They say at 70 years old, that's when the wine has a great appreciation on a person. It says older people enjoy wine. You'll see when you get 70, you'll start appreciating wine at a level. And then 3 for the number of letters in the word. And then he says, same thing of not just that was a negative commandment to the rabbis. Don't drink this wine. And they have positive commandments. They created the mitzvah of davening. Now, it doesn't really mean davening itself, because davening itself is a biblical. There's a mitzvah to daven. It means the rabbinic aspects of davening. The rabbinic aspects of davening, if you missed or messed up one of those, how many fasts? 61 fasts. How do they get 61? Because the word 61 equals the word ani. Ani means I. There's a famous quote that says, Va'ani tfilasi, I am my prayer. The word ani, and also it says on a deeper level, really, ani is also equal to malchus, the feminine, which is a day of prayer. The whole idea of davening is to be a receiver. Hashem is giving me, and malchus, the feminine, is always the receiver in a relationship, in the feminine aspect. So because she's a receiver, therefore ani here is 61. It's the numerical value of the word ani is exactly 61. So we see we have different fasts to do. If you messed up in davening, if you this 61 for wine, 73 for anger, 151. We could be busy fasting for a while. But derech klal, and now we said like this. Now we're going to introduce another idea. This is the last point, more or less, of this chapter, and that is as follows. We said until now 3 reasons why a person may fast associated with the process of the Shuvah. Either to avert something negative that's going to come your way, or to assist in the process of the Shuvah, That means to either speed up the punishment or to try and elicit something should happen physically instead of spiritually, etc. Or we said as a gift to God. It's a gift. My fasting, I'm giving, like we said, that my fat and my blood is what they used to take from these sacrifices was the fats of the animal and the blood of the animal was sprinkled and brought onto the altar. By not eating, I am diminishing my own blood, my own fats, and that's my carbon, that's my sacrifice, my gift to God. Now he's going to say there's really a fourth. According to Kabbalah, there's a fourth aspect of why fasting is good. There's a tremendous benefit, and that is by fasting, and I'll explain how in a minute, Kabbalistically, you draw down from the highest and loftiest levels of God's goodness and God's goodwill and God's essence light into your own life. But it doesn't just mean from God, it means from within yourself too. In your neshama, you have various layers of your soul. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, which deal with all the emotions and action and feelings and intellect. Then you have Chaya, which is your deeper level of your soul. Then you have Yechida. Yechida is a level of your soul where it's untappable. You can't tarnish it, and it doesn't communicate with you. It's only tapped into at certain times of your life, at exceptional times. It's a part of you that you could, like we said, eat pork on Yom Kippur, doing the worst sins, and your Yechida is deliciously sweet, untouched, like a soft marshmallow. It's beautiful, it's sweet, unharmed. So you have the same thing above. In the highest levels of godliness, you have what's called ratzon. Ratzon is goodwill. A regular fasting, or fasting in the regular concept, draws down like a sacrifice, the goodwill from Hashem. Draws down tremendous goodwill, like it says, v'nirtza, becomes acceptable. Once again, we're close to Hashem. We're feeling, the good feelings are coming back. Like I mentioned, the gift. Once again, the good feelings are there. Another aspect of fasting is not about the good feelings. It's about ratzon elyon, a higher level where you never even heard him in the first place. It's like when someone hurts the parent. And a person could do something to hurt the parents really badly, very painfully. That reaches a level deep, and that could always be reconnected or reconnected by a certain amount of process and work. It's not easy. You can reconnect. Then there's a level that doesn't even get hurt. There's a part of me that you can't touch. No matter what, you could do the worst things to me. I'm never going to be affected at my deepest level because my love to you is a part of me that can't be hurt by my kids. You hurt me, yeah, on an external level, on a functioning level, but on a deep level, you can't touch me. Same with Hashem. There's a part of Hashem that no matter what we do sins, Hashem is like, I'm cool. Doesn't bother him. We're tapping into that level and drawing it down. That's the fourth aspect of fasting. The derech klal, to understand in general, a much deeper level of fasting, not tinus, but the secret. Until now we spoke about tinus in general. The Kabbalistic, the inside secret, it's a tremendous way to draw down the highest level of God's goodwill, and it's kamaya carbon. It's similar to a carbon. And here he brings down a different pasuk. The earlier pasuk he said Nirza talked about an offering that was brought after a sin. Here he's talking about the burnt offering, which it says Hashem says on it it elicits an unbelievable aroma, goodwill above me. It creates something deep within me, good, deep within me, pleasant. That's what we're talking about, a much higher level than just a gift. Yeshaya says, he was chastising the Jews. They fasted, and the fasting was not reflected in their behavior. Some person can fast, and on the fast day they're playing, poker, they're playing pool. That's what the fast day is. Your fast day should be sitting and davening and reflecting. Fasting is not just some external behavior. Okay, it's a fast day today. Let's go out, bowling to pass the time. Well, pass the time. Go sit and pray and meditate and think and connect. So that's, I remember in camp, fast days was a great day for baseball with the kids. Kept them busy. It was a 4-hour game. Not too much running, not too much exercise, but it kept them busy. So he says, why does he mention Yeshaya? Usually doesn't say who's the author, where it's coming from. He just says the pasuk. We've said pasuk all the time. He's saying Yeshaya because only Yeshaya, the deepest, greatest prophet, he was one of the greatest prophets. Him and Yecheskel were like the extraordinary prophet. They saw the Markava, they saw revelations of God that were unbelievable. He said he could see the true benefit of a fast. Now, the fact that he says you call this a fast means he saw what a fast could be. A fast could be something incredible. You guys are depleting it. You're wasting it. You're sitting around, you're talking and schmoozing, and you're fasting as if that's going to be called a fast day. Comes out that a fast really is an unbelievable day of goodwill. And this is the bottom line, that the fast day is meant to elicit and bring out. And how does a fast do that? What does it mean? So he says, usually when a person has a day of eating, the process is called milamata lamayla. The process goes up. In my body, I have all different organs and parts, and the highest, loftiest organ is the brain. I eat something, I swallow it, I chew it, I digest it. The final, eventual thing is It makes it up. The blood comes into my brain and brings life to my brain. That's the way it goes on an eating day. On a non-eating day, I'm not eating at all. Where does it all come from? Just the brain. The brain, not because someone is giving something to me. I am now running the body, not because I'm a taker, I'm a giver. The brain is purely running the body without any influence from outside benefiting it. Same thing Hashem. There are certain things to do for Hashem that elicit that we are sort of connecting to Hashem from our side. On a fast day like this, when it goes to the highest level, it's purely coming from above down. It's downward giving from Hashem, the highest level, from the brain, so to speak, highest level coming down. There's no up from the bottom going up. Just to conclude, but there's another type of fast he doesn't mention here. There's a story with the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov, before he became known, at the age of 36, he became known as the great tzaddik that he was. Until then, people didn't know who he was. He was a helper in the school, he used to travel around. For a while, he was a clay digger. It was a very hard job to do. He would dig clay. No one knew. He looked a simple guy. He dressed in very simple clothes. And this was to him the greatest. He would go down to the place where the clay was. He would go in deep meditation. And his wife would bake for him every time he would leave he'd leave Sunday, come back Friday. And she would give him 6 challah rolls, 6 loaves of bread, one for each day to have bread and water. That's what he ate. And he would go, his mind, I don't want to call him like an absent-minded professor, would be respectful, but like a deep, deep disconnect from the physical world. It said that usually he would come back with all 6 loaves of bread. Not because he fasted, because he forgot to eat. He forgot to eat. And it's explained in Chassidus that when someone reaches a level like Moshe Rabbeinu in heaven, he didn't eat. How do you go without eating? A lot of times you're working on a project and it's seriously focused. I can go sometimes, it could be 6 o'clock in the evening. I go, wow, had a coffee this morning. I haven't eaten today. I wasn't even hungry. Why? Because I was so busy with this thing I was working on. I didn't even stop and I wasn't even hungry. Later, when I thought about it, I became hungry. I'm getting hungry. You could be in that place, but it takes a true distraction, a true place that or it could be a worry. I can't eat because a person could be in a place where food is not a factor. The Baal Shem Tov's level of spirituality was that food wasn't even a factor. How does he live 6 days without the bread? Because he lived in a different dimension. It's a spiritual level, and again, the average person can't relate to this, and we don't have to. But there's a level you could be that you can go a day without eating and davening and praying and shul, not because I'm not eating it. Like someone says, I'm not talking Lashon Hara today. Oh, so you were gonna talk, but I'm not saying anything bad today. I'm not gonna use any cuss words today. Or you could be, I don't use that because I don't even think of it. It's not even in my agenda. It's not in my spectrum, my field. A person can be that way where they're so in the world of spirituality, they didn't even think about food. And that's another level of fasting where it's not even intentional. It's that you're not even aware, not even thinking about it. That's even a higher level. And this ends chapter 2.